times life is very, very, very quiet, right? But you just have to listen to it, right? So, like right now, it's a complete and utter silence, right? Obviously, there's noise everywhere, but there's this inner silence that happens. And that silence is one of the most wonderful feelings that a human being can experience, right? I think it's better than any drug that a human being can experience too. Now, I haven't done drugs, but if I did, I would prefer this to that. And getting to that point in life where you feel that inner silence is superb, right? Because it's like you're always on drugs, okay? But you can still function, right? And you can still feel like a human being. There's this specific feeling of being a human being that you still feel while you're on drugs, basically. But you're not on drugs, you're normal. Just you're at peace. And I think if you have been meditating for a long time, or if you have been in any kind of spiritual practice, you have experienced this, right? This silence. It's just that maybe you might not experience it all the time, right? Or some of you might, and that's wonderful. So you might be thinking, okay, how do I experience that all the time? Well, you simply refuse to accept it in a sense. That's how you basically feel it all the time, right? And you might be thinking, oh, that makes no sense whatsoever. And you're right, it doesn't make sense. Even I don't understand it, right? I have no idea what I just said, so I'm just going to rephrase that. Um, the way you make your mind quiet in a sense is by understanding that it will never ever be quiet. There will always be thoughts, right? There will always be background noise. There will always be stuff like that. Just now the fridge just turned on and it in a sense disrupted my silence, right? However, you what needs to happen is once you understand that there will always be in a sense silence, sorry, noise, then it no longer becomes a matter of trying to reduce that noise, a matter of getting rid of the noise, but rather it's a matter of accepting the noise, right? That silence that you might have experienced is not really silence, it's complete and utter acceptance of what is. And only when you accept what is will that silence naturally arise, right? Thoughts, feelings, all of that, they would still come, but you would be at peace. Not because there are no thoughts, but because that acceptance allows you to find peace no matter what conflict it is that you're facing, right? That's the power of acceptance, and that is what must be achieved. And now you might be thinking, okay, then how do I achieve that? Simple. The way you achieve that is by letting go of your desire to accept it, right? Acceptance is not something that just simply you do. It's something that automatically happens, right? So think of it like this. When you get a blood scratch on your finger, right? There's a wound, blood is leaking out. What do? You rinse it with water and all of that, right? You make sure it's no longer bleeding, right? That's what you do physically. But what happens inside of you? Inside of you, what happens is all of these antibodies, white blood cells, they all, I don't know biology, right? But all of these things work together to make it heal. That's why you get these scars. These scars are not really a bad thing. It's just your body trying to heal, right? I don't have a scar, but like if I did, there would be one here, right? So that's what happens inside of you. That's your body's natural mechanism to, in itself, sustain itself, to protect itself. So if the body has a mechanism like that, then so does the mind. It's just simple logic, right? So what happens is once you let go of your desire to fix it, once you stop interfering with your mind, this little doohickey right here, what happens, what naturally happens is your mind starts to resolve its own problems, right? It starts to accept it without you trying. That's what a lot of people say when they mean, I have this effortless sense of energy where I act effortlessly, right? They actually do put in the effort. It's just that they feel as if they are no longer giving any conscious effort because the mind is automatically doing it for you, right? In these spiritual traditions, there's this thing where we have to get rid of the ego, we have to get rid of the identity, right? And that is true. But what happens is that a lot of people confuse that line of thinking with thinking that the mind is the enemy. The mind is not the enemy, right? The mind is a tool that a lot of us just don't know how to use. And the way we use the mind is by not using the mind, right? This is non-linear logic, by the way. You have to think of it in terms of non-linear terms to understand this, right? But what happens when we stop thinking of it like that? When we stop using the mind and we let the mind use itself, our problems just naturally start to resolve. Just like when a virus gets in our body, the antibodies start to fight. Just like that, the mind does its thing. It's normal. It's 100% normal, folks. Now, how do you do this? Simple. You don't. That's the that's the emphasis of of meditation. That's what we try to achieve by doing meditation. We try to get out of our own way. That's what meditation simply points towards, right? Like hundreds, thousands, tens and thousands of years ago, these mystics, these uh, priests, these shamans, they created meditation, they created prayer, they created all of these spiritual traditions so we can get out of our own way, so we can let God do our own bidding, right? You might call it God, you might call it a higher consciousness, you might call it higher vibration, you might call it metacognition, whatever it may be, right? Whatever it may be, you just sometimes have to let yourself be out of it. You have to get out of your own way. That is the ultimate goal, right? And once you do that, acceptance just naturally happens. Acceptance is not something that you do. Acceptance is a byproduct of letting go of your desire, right? Letting of this, stepping out of your own way and trusting yourself. That's all you have to do. That's just to trust and be. As long as you are being, acceptance will come, right? Right now, a lot of people, they understand this, right? They understand this theoretically, and you might not just understand it theoretically, but some of you might also understand it experientially. You might have an experience of that and you had that aha moment, right? But some of you might not, right? So for you to get to that point where you understand it experientially, you know what the hell I'm talking about. So it's not like I'm on drugs or anything like that. Why am I? Right? Uh, so to get to that point where you know what I'm talking about, all you really have to do is do that practice of meditation or prayer, and eventually there will come a point where you understand your true being. You might see a glimpse of it. You might, see a true glimpse of that being. And chances are most of you have seen that, right? If you're watching this video, you have seen that chant, most likely. And if you do understand it, if you have seen it, then you are already 90% of the way there towards, in a sense, enlightenment or, in a sense, peace, as you may call it, right? Once you understand the glimpse of reality, all you really have to do is just let it go. Let it completely go and find comfort in the fact that you're living in illusion. And what happens? Wow! Nothing happens. That's why they say before enlightenment, you chop wood, touch grass. After enlightenment, you touch wood, chop grass. There's literally nothing special about this, right? You're doing absolutely nothing special. Like, obviously, you're doing something special in like a linear sense, in a practical sense, right? There's a lot of benefits, psychological, physical, mental, blah blah blah, a lot of benefits. But if we're talking about it strictly in terms of spirituality, there are no benefits. There's nothing major that changes. Actually, there's nothing that changes. Like, in the Kung Fu Panda movie, in the first movie, in the Dragon Skull, right? Everyone tries to get this Dragon Skull, and that white tiger tries to go get it and beats Chifu and Po and all of those guys, right? And at the end, he opens it and there's nothing. That was the Dragon Scroll. There was absolutely nothing. There was nothing there. And that was the secret. The secret is there was nothing. Just like when Poe's father, the duck or the goose, I forgot, but he says the secret to my noodles is nothing. Nothing. There was no secret to noodles. It was just like that. There's nothing. And then what happened? I did not understand that when I was a kid. But now that I'm here, I get it. Right? So yeah, that's all I want to say. See ya and have a wonderful day.